Alright, in this lesson we are going to solve and graph 1- and 2-step inequalities. They are a lot like solving equations, which I'm going to show you, but at the end of it we still need to go ahead and graph it on a number line. Before we get started though, we're going to do a quick review. So for the first part of this, we're going to take the word form and we're going to write out the inequality. So the temperature today will be at most 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to go ahead and use T for temperature, but you can use whichever variable you choose. My number is 50, and my keyword here is at most. Remember that you can pick a number to test, okay? So here's 50. At most is telling me that it's going to be less than 50 degrees. So I'm going to choose 40, and my sign then would be less than. But I always need to ask myself, can it be exactly 50 degrees? Well, yes, it can be. And so my sign is going to be less than or equal to 50. So my final answer would be T is less than or equal to 50. The temperature tomorrow will be above 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, I'm going to use T for temperature. You can use whichever you want. I'm going to use 70. And then above, and above is a pretty straightforward one, so this T needs to be above 70, so it's going to be greater than, but don't forget that you can use your test number like I did here in red. Number 3, yesterday there was less than 2 inches of rain, so I'm going to use R for rain, but you use whatever letter you want. My number is 2. My keyword is less than, and that one's pretty straightforward. That's just going to be our less than sign. And so R is less than 2 is going to be our final answer. Last Monday, there was at least 3 inches of rain. So I'm going to use R, and then there's my 3. Our keyword here is at least. I'm going to go ahead and do a test number for this because at least is one that can be sometimes confusing. So there was at least 3 inches of rain, so that means there was more than 3 inches of rain. So maybe there was 5 inches, so that's 5 is greater than 3. Now, could there have been exactly 3 inches of rain? Yes. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be greater than or equal to. So R is greater than or equal to 3. All right, now for these 4 review questions down here, we're going to go ahead and graph. So T is less than or equal to -2. So I'm just going to start with 0 in the middle. I'm going to throw -2 on one side, +2 on the other. This symbol right here is going to tell me that I'm going to have a closed circle on top of the -2. And then the arrow is going to be going towards the left. Just like that. That is a terrible arrow. All right, let's stick with that. Okay, so number 2 here, J is greater than -5. So I'm going to put a 0 here. Let's do -5 on one side, +5 on the other. This symbol right here, the greater than symbol, is going to tell me I'm going to have an open circle on top of the -5. And my arrow is going to be going towards the right. That's also a terrible arrow. All right, so for number 3, we have an OR statement here, okay? So Y is less than or equal to 0, or Y is greater than 3. So I should have 2 arrows, and since it's OR, they're going to be going in opposite directions, okay? So here I have 0, 1, 2, 3. Here I have 3. So let me do my 0 first. I'm going to have a closed circle on top of the 0, and it's going to be going to the right. And then I'm going to have an open circle on top of the 3, and it's going to be going, or sorry, that arrow is going to the left. And then an open circle on top of the 3 going to the right. All right, number 4, -2 is less than B is less than 3. This is an AND statement, meaning I need to split it in half. So this side here is always the easy one, okay, because I sort of just take it and rewrite it. Now this side here, I have to flip it around. And then when I graph them, because it's an AND statement, they're actually going to connect together. So here's my 0. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Here's my 3, and then I have a -2. -1, -2. Okay, so I'm going to have an open circle over the negative 2 and an open circle over the positive 3. And then they connect, just like that. All right, those are some quick reviews. Now, let's get into solving inequalities. So, here's my question to you. Do you remember how to solve a one-step equation? Well, you should. So, just as a quick refresher, you box the variable and you use the inverse operation, which means the opposite operation, to move the coefficient or the constant away from the variable. So here we have multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I used a fraction bar. So I got rid of the 3's, I brought down my x, and I brought down my equal sign, and 18 divided by 3 is 6, and my answer was x equals 6. Okay? Guess what? You solve inequalities the exact same way. Step 1, box the variable. Step 2, use inverse operations to move the coefficient or the constant away from the variable. So, multiplication's happening here. I'm going to use division, a fraction bar, to move it away. The 3's cancel out. I bring down my x. The only difference is right here. There's no equal sign. There's going to be an inequality sign. But look, you just bring it down every step of the way. There's going to be one tiny exception, but I'm going to show you. It's later in the lesson, okay? So when you get to this point, this is your final answer. X is greater than 6. And the only extra step is, once you box it off, you just have to graph it. And that's it. And so your answer should look like that. And then you're done. Alright? So, let's practice. N plus 8 is greater than 19. Box your variable. We're going to do minus 8 and minus 8. This is like your equal sign. Okay? Your 8's cancel. Thank you for coming. Bring down your N. Bring down your inequality symbol. 19 minus 8 is 11. Your answer is N is greater than 11. Now we're going to graph. 0 here, negative 11 here, positive 11 here, and then let's go ahead and graph. This tells me open circle, and I'm going to the right. That's it. Let's try our next one. Negative 8 is greater than or equal to k minus 3. Box my variable. Now I have a minus 3 attached, so I'm going to do a plus 3, and I have to go to the other side of the sign and also do a plus 3. Okay? These guys are going to cancel out because they're inverse operations. Bring down my k. Bring down my inequality sign. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. Now your red flags should be going off right here because you should see that this needs to be flipped. That is not acceptable. We need to flip it because the variable always needs to be on the left. So this should be k, this should be negative 5, and because I flipped those, I also need to flip the sign. So that's my final answer. And then let's go ahead and graph. This right here is going to tell me a closed circle on top of the negative 5. And then my arrow is going to go to the left. Just like that. Alright, next one. 8x is greater than negative 40. Box the variable. I have multiplication happening here, so I'm going to do the inverse, which is division. So I'm going to divide by 8 on both sides. These guys are going to cancel. Bring down my x. Bring down my inequality sign. Negative 40 divided by 8 is negative 5. My variable's on the left, so I'm good to go. This is my final answer. And I'm going to go ahead and graph. This sign right here is going to tell me I'm going to have an open circle on top of the negative 5, and I'm going to the right. And that's it. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. 3 is greater than or equal to k over 3. Box my variable. Here I have division happening, so I need to do the inverse, which is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. These are going to cancel each other out. I bring down my k, I bring down my inequality sign. 3 times 3 is 9. Immediately, though, I have a problem. I cannot have the k on that side there. I need to flip it around. Bring my k over here, bring my 9 over here, flip my sign around. Now that's my final answer. And then I'm going to go ahead and graph. This right here is going to tell me I have a closed circle on top of the 9. And then the arrow is going to go to the left. And that is a crazy arrow, but you get the point. All right, I want you to try the first 2 at the top only. Very important. All right, go ahead and check those 2 answers, or hit pause if you're not done. The first one should be x is less than or equal to positive 16. So it's going to be closed circle on top of the 16, arrow going to the left. The second one, y is less than 18, open circle over the 18, arrow going to the left. Okay, go ahead and just do this one right here, the negative 26 is greater than y plus 14, and then stop. I don't want you to do this one. I need to do that one with you. Alright, if you're not done, hit pause. If you are done, let's check. You should have gotten y is less than negative 40, open circle over the negative 40, arrow going to the left. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. Remember I told you at the beginning of the video, everything is going to remain the same as equations with one exception, which we'd talk about later in the video. This is that exception right here, so you might want to put a star by this problem, okay? Now, let's take a look. We're going to start to solve the exact same way, and I'm going to tell you when it's going to get different, okay? So, step 1, box the variable. What's happening here? Division. Okay, so we're going to do inverse, which is multiplication. So it's being divided by negative 7, so we're going to multiply both sides by negative 7, right? These cancel, so we're left with m. Now, pause here. Whenever you, and go ahead and make yourself a note right down here. So I'm going to put a star, write this down. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to, put it on all caps, flip the sign. Okay? When you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the sign. Okay? When you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the sign. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. In this case, I was multiplying by a negative number, by negative 7. So I still bring down my m. This still happens normally. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. But instead of bringing down this sign as less than or equal to, it becomes greater than or equal to. Okay? That's the only difference. And then we simply graph as we normally would with the new sign. So closed circle over the negative 21, arrow going to the right. And this right here is my final answer. And I realize that that looks like a shark's tooth, so let me fix that. It's a greater than or equal to sign. Okay? And we're going to do more examples of that. Now, some of you may be going back in your notes and thinking, but wait a second, look at this problem right here. Here we have a negative number. No. What did we divide by? We divided by 8. 8 was a positive number. Yes, there's negative 40, but what did we divide by? We divided by 8, which was a positive number. Okay? So let's keep working. All right, here we go. So now we have some two-step problems. All right, so box the variable. Now we have to do minus 4. So these cancel. 2x is greater than or equal to 24 minus 4 is 20. Now, box the variable again. We're going to divide by 2, divide by 2. These guys cancel. X is greater than or equal to 20 divided by 2 is 10. And that is all there is to it. So we have 0 here, negative 10 here, positive 10 here. This tells me closed circle over the positive 10, arrow going to the right. So the only time we flip the sign is when we multiply or divide by a negative. All right, next one. 4 plus n over 3 is less than 6. So I'm going to box my variable. I'm going to do minus 4 and minus 4. These 4's are going to cancel. Thank you for coming. N over 3 is less than 6 minus 4 is 2. Again, box my variable. I have division happening here, so I need to do multiplication. Multiply by 3, multiply by 3. These cancel. Thank you for coming. Bring down my n, bring down my sign. 2 times 3 is 6. Now let's go ahead and graph. This tells me open circle on top of the positive 6, arrow going to the left. All right, let's take a look at this example here. Box the variable. This is a negative 12, so I'm going to do positive 12. Positive 12 to the other side. These are going to cancel. I bring down negative 4w. Bring down my sign greater than. Okay, here I have negative 32 plus 12. That's going to be negative 20. Box my variable again. I divide by negative 4. Now, hint, hint, hint. I'm dividing by a negative number. Okay, make sure you realize that. Do the same thing to the other side. Hint, hint, hint. I'm dividing by a negative number. That's going to tell me I'm going to have to flip my sign. Negative 20 divided by negative 4 is 5. But because I divided by a negative number, I have to flip my sign. See what I did? I flipped it around. So your answer is W is less than 5. And then you just go ahead and you graph. This tells me open circle over the positive 5, arrow going to the left. Alright, here we go. Step 1, box the variable. Next, we're going to do minus 1, minus 1. These cancel. Thank you for coming. 4 minus 1 is 3, less than n over 7. Box the variable. I have division, so I'm going to multiply by 7 on both sides. 3 times 7 is 21. Less than, these cancel, n. Okay, but here I have an issue. I need the variable to be on the left-hand side, so I'm going to flip it around, and I flip the sign. And then I'm going to go ahead and graph. Alright, this tells me open circle over the positive 21 going to the right. Alright, you go ahead and try these 4. Make sure you remember when to flip the sign. Alright, if you're not done, go ahead and hit pause, and if you are done, let's go ahead and go over it. So for the first one, you should have gotten y is greater than or equal to negative 3. closed circle over the -3, arrow going to the right. For the second one, x is less than -24, open circle over the -24, arrow going to the left. For the next one on the bottom, k is greater than or equal to 21, closed circle over the 21, arrow going to the right. And then for the last one, x is less than 1, open circle over the 1, arrow going to the left. All right, I know that was a lot, but I have a couple more things left for you. I have some practice EOG questions, what they will look like, or what inequality questions will look like on the EOG that I want to quickly go over with you. So, which inequality best represents the phrase, a number greater than -1? So, simply all you have to do is annotate it. A number, x, greater than, there's your sign, -1. Which one matches? Well, if you annotate it properly, just as we did, letter A is the one that matches. All right? Number 2, which inequality best represents this phrase? A number, I'm going to use n because it looks like that's what they use, less than or equal to, so that's our symbol, 0. And again, as long as you do your annotations up there, it's going to lead you right to C. Next one, 5 friends have lunch together. Their total bill was X dollars, including tax and tip. They shared the cost equally. Shared the cost equally typically tells us the operation is division, because equal parts is typically division, okay? And each friend paid less than $10. Which inequality shows the possible solutions for X, the total amount of the bill? Okay, so there are 2 different ways to solve this. The most correct way is to come up with an equation and go ahead and solve. And then I'll show you the trick way to do it if you're totally stuck and you don't know what to do. So start here, less than $10. Okay, then 5 friends split the bill. Well, we don't know how much the bill is, so X, total bill, divided by 5. Now go ahead and solve. Box the variable. This is division, so do multiplication. These cancel. X is less than 50, which is going to bring you right to B. Now let's say you would have a lot of trouble coming up with that equation. Let me show you a tip or a trick. Do you see this on the answer choices here? They're all X, 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 and they're all 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. The only difference is the sign. Well, look in the problem, less than. The only problem that has a less than sign is answer choice B. So if you're totally stuck, read the problem and see if it tells you what the sign is, and then that will give you an indication. All right, next one. A red block and a blue block are on a scale. The red block weighs 9 ounces. The total weight of both blocks is at most 16 ounces. Which inequality represents B, the possible weight of the blue block? So red plus blue weighs at most 16. We have to figure out the inequality symbol. What is at most? At most is less than or equal to. Now it tells us that the red block is 9, so we could put 9 in for R. Now we need to go ahead and solve for B. So oops, I didn't box my variable. So minus 9, these cancel. Bring down my B, bring down my sign. 16 minus 9 is 7, and B is the one that matches. Now again, let me show you a trick here. If both blocks together weigh at most 16 ounces, is it possible for one of the blocks to weigh 25 ounces? No, because if together they weigh at most 16, then one of them should not weigh 25. So you should be able to eliminate C and D from your answer choices. All right, which number is not a solution for the inequality below? So we need to plug these numbers in and figure out which one does not work. So let's start off with 6. So 6 over 2, that is 3. So is it true that 3 is greater than or equal to 12? That is not true, but let's check the rest of them. Let's try 24. 24 over 2, that's 12. Is it true that 12 is greater than or equal to 12? Yes, it's equal to, okay, but let's try 25 just to be sure. 25 over 2 is going to be 12.5. Is it true that 12.5 is greater than or equal to 12? Yes. So which one does not work? Answer choice A. All right, last one. Which graph shows the solution for this inequality? Well, we're going to have to go ahead and solve it. So let's box our variable. -9, -9, bring down my r, these guys cancel, bring down my symbol. 12 minus 9 is 3. So our solution is r is less than 3. Now this right here tells me I have an open circle. So A has a closed circle and C also has a closed circle. So you're left with B and D. Now the arrow's pointing to the left, so I know that answer choice D is going to be the correct one. Alright, I know this was an exceptionally long lesson, but thanks for sticking with me, and we will do more practice in class.